keenly monitoring, watching and learning this event since the beginning of Russia invades Ukraine. My question is, the president of Ukraine was professionally as a comedian actor. He became president with a popular vote. Now he is into the world as a commander-in-chief. He says Putin is bluffing, quote unquote. How credible his warning is?
Thank you for your question, Mr. Kanchan. We know that on this Friday, tomorrow, they are supposed to meet at the joint base Elmendorf-Richardson. It has roots historically as a strategic military base from the Cold War, and it's still active today. However, as per your question, we know that Volodymyr Zelensky, a leader of Ukraine, was in fact a part of the entertainment industry in that country, and later due to a popular people's vote, he had become the leader of Ukraine. But to my understanding, we know that more than 20 to 35% of eastern Ukraine has been invaded by Russia and right now is under Russian rule. The meeting tomorrow, as you know, it's labeled as a listening exercise. Maybe Donald Trump is trying to understand where Vladimir Putin is coming from and what kind of ambition he has from such aggression towards Ukraine. What are the wins and what are the political takebacks he will have by assaulting Ukraine. However, we know Donald Trump, he enjoys the media attention that he receives, not only as a politician and the head of state, but also as a businessman. And at this point, arriving at a ceasefire would only stop the heinous attacks that has happened over the last 3.5 years. But such a prolonged war be over with such dialogue is very hard to understand and receive. We know that in history says we were celebrating almost the 80 years of the Hiroshima bombing earlier on this month, and such an event didn't take place as modern warfare is concerned. But according to various news agencies, even last night Donald Trump had a telephonic conversation with Volodymyr Zelensky, and they shared what they will be talking about tomorrow. So it's far too early to know what the consists of the meeting. But maybe we will have to sit on an emergency session this Saturday just to understand where this war and where the traction is going and how the US is going to play between these certain characters, Russia, Ukraine. And when I say Ukraine, I mean the entirety of NATO and Europe as well.
Trump heated NATO members by imposing 5% GDP to share for the security purpose. And that time you have seen in Hague, there was a huge debate. Do you think Trump alone is negotiating with Putin and all NATO members will say, yes sir, what you have done, we are agree. Do you think in that position Trump is in now with the NATO counterparts?
Thanks for your question. Let me point out that the 5% defense budget spending for all NATO members was for the next 10 years up until 2035. So NATO is understanding the Russian offensive over the years. We were mentioning the annexation of Crimea and Georgia, which happened quite some time ago, roughly a couple of years back. So the NATO's expenditure, military expenditure in this regard is for the long term, and they understand that the Russian the country is trying to recoup back into the Soviet Union that they were known of in the past. Now, it's not like all the NATO countries have followed suit on the 5% defense spending. Spain, in specific, said they will not be meeting that requirement or prerequisite. They will only have their 2% as per any normal European country or NATO member. But as far as tomorrow's meeting is concerned, Mark Rutte and Donald Trump do have a really nice friendship regarding the head of NATO and as well as the US president. But since this meeting tomorrow is a listening meeting, it's going off quite well. Why I say this, one must understand, listen to the enemy, what the enemy wants, if this was the perspective of Donald Trump. But knowing Donald Trump, even in the Iran-Israel conflict, there was a time where he was blatantly blaming Israel and Iran as well. So if it comes to push comes to shove, Donald Trump may become the bigger boot.
Sir, I really appreciate. As you make the show lighter, I just want to give a short solution. Why
Yes.
NATO is not considering Russia to be the member of NATO?
Although this is quite hilarious, satirical, but This was a question that we dealt in the past. Maybe they don't see eye to eye, and maybe they, the NATO countries feel inferior to the massive geographical size of Russia. And of course, history says they have been separated. World War II was the stage in Europe, and not much has been progressive alongside these lines.
Leaders can offer Russia to be the member of NATO, all problem gone.
If they see no other alternative, sure, why not?